Welcome to Riverside episode 1. What Riverside is it's pretty simple really. I started fly fishing in early spring, back when the water was still cold, and I kind of just really enjoyed it. I kind of almost fell in love with the sport of fly fishing. It's like every chance I got, I just went out to the river and put a fly in the water, tried to catch some trout. I tried to catch a trout since early spring, didn't catch one until October. Like, it was a long process, but I had to learn how to fly fish. I had to learn the skills of reading a river and had to learn a lot. But I finally caught one in October, and you'll see a video of that here in a little bit. But what fly fishing is just a video series or a video show that's just about Jesus, really. I want it to be something that glorifies God, glorifies Jesus, and but also something that shows His nature and shows the beauty of His creation. So I figured, what better way to do that through video and through fishing, because there's just something about trout and fish. It's just something about catching a big fish or something like that, or just being even out in nature and just experiencing that it's just almost contagious. It's like once you do it, you want to do it again and again and again. And so, yeah, and so that's what this really is, and I hope you stick along and tag along throughout the years and throughout the time that this show goes on, and hopefully this benefits you in some way. I know it certainly has benefited me in more ways than one already, and this is episode 1. So, yeah, hopefully this goes well. It is early November, it's freezing out, and I don't have waders. And if you've ever been fly fishing, a big part of fly fishing is simply simply going through the creek and wading through the creek and hitting the right holes where the fish are. But if you don't have waders, fishing in early November when it's freezing cold isn't all that fun. So I talked to Josh, Preacher Josh. I was like, hey, can I use the waders from the baptistry to go fishing? And he was like, yeah, that's fine. And so I was going to, but I forgot. So today I'm at home, which is fine because I have a lot of stuff I need to do anyways. We're having company over later, and yeah. So I thought, what better way to start the day than to start a fire, enjoy it, and then get my day started after I focus on God, connect with Him, and start my day off that way. Sounds like the best way to do that. Just let that fly sink down deep. There we go. Y'all see that? Let's go. Let's go. Stay on there, stay on there, stay on there. Oh, that's beautiful. That is a pretty fish right there. Yes, sir. Look at that. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That's beautiful. So this river I go to, I'm not going to mention the spot that I go to because fisherman never reveals his favorite spot. But it's this river I go to, once you are driving to it, you hit this overpass, and if you look over the overpass, you can look out over the river, and it's just this beautiful scene where, especially now, the trees are all changing colors. It's red and yellow and orange and even a little bit of green, and the water is just clear blue, and it's just this beautiful picture, and it's almost such a beautiful thing. And it amazes me how many people just drive over that river without even thinking about it. It's just like they just drive past it without even looking down, or maybe they're looking at their phone, which is terrible when you're driving, but you know, they just look over and it's like whatever. And then I think about how often we forget to disconnect, and it's like it's something that has to be a daily, deliberate and purposeful thing to connect with Him. And if you don't make that deliberate action every day, then it's going to pass you by, and then a week will pass you by, and then before you know it, a month will pass you by, and then before you know it, it'll be even longer before something else passes you by. And so it has to be this deliberate daily action. And that's one thing that I think Christians oftentimes forget. Say what you will about the ancient Israelites, but one thing that they had was a healthy respect, or a good understanding of the importance of the presence of God. And you know, they've certainly made their fair share of mistakes, just like Christians do today. But you know, when I look at passages like Exodus 25, 26, and 27, where it's talking about the tabernacle, and you know, later in Exodus when it talks about the temple, and just how much they cared about the presence of the Creator. It's like with the tabernacle, they had so many specifics that they had to hit and do perfectly in order to make this tabernacle. And what the tabernacle was a place of worship. And inside the tabernacle, you had this one room. It's called the Holy Room, and then inside that, separated by a massive curtain or a veil, you had what was called the Holy of Holies. And the Holy of Holies is where the Ark of the Covenant was, and that was literally the dwelling place of God. And the ancient Israelites saw this place as so important, and God commanded them to do this, but they saw it as so important that only one person could go into the Holy of Holies, into the presence of God, and that was a priest, and he could only do that once a year. So moving on from Exodus, if you fast forward to Luke chapter 23, starting in verse 44, this is the death of Jesus. It says, "It was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3, because the sun's light failed. The curtain in the sanctuary was split down the middle, and Jesus called out with a loud voice, 'Father, into your hands I entrust my spirit.' Saying this, he breathed his last." And so it's this really cool passage because it connects directly back to Exodus, directly back to the temple where they had this Holy of Holies. Because when he died, it said the sun's light failed and the curtain of the sanctuary was split down the middle. And that curtain is the exact same one that separated the holy place from the most holy place, which is God's presence. And what does that signify for us? Well, what that signifies for us is that you no longer have to be a priest in order to enter God's presence. You no longer have to be in ministry in order to enter into God's presence. You no longer only have to do that one day a year. You can literally do it anytime you want, which, as I said earlier, we have this amazing gift to enter into His presence. Why do we ever go a single day without doing it? It's like you think of how amazing the Creator is. You think of all He's done. You think of just how powerful He is, how brilliant He is, how much He knows, like we can't even begin to wrap our head around who God is. And that's the God we serve. Like, we serve a God who is so perfect beyond measure, in ways that we could never understand. But we still somehow neglect to come into His presence? It's just a wild thing to me. Like, how could we possibly go any time without doing that? But we do. We do it all the time. And so I guess with this episode 1, what I really want for you is, I want you to stop this week. I want you to stop today or tomorrow, whenever you can, and just be in His presence. You know, you don't have to go down to the river. You don't have to go out in nature. Although that's a great way to do it, because how can you not see Him when you're in His creation? But I want you to get away from the world and disconnect from everything. And for just a small little while, I want you to just connect with Him and enter into His presence and see what happens. Changed my life. Changed how I live every single day. You know, once I really found out and experienced the importance of the presence of the Creator, it changed everything. It changed my entire spiritual walk with Christ. It changed how I do faith. It changed how I live. Like, it really changed everything. And so that's what I pray for you. I pray that you're able to take some time this week and just enter into His presence.